Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday afternoon on the East Coast, every weekday morning on the West Coast, right here over the airwaves of 98.7 FM in New York, 710 ESPN LA, and of course, Sirius XM nationwide on ESPN Radio's channel 80. 866-729. ESPN is the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. Lots of stuff to get into today. Cowboys are making news. The New England Patriots are still relevant news. The Atlanta Falcons signing a new offensive coordinator there in Steve Sarkisian, a former head coach at USC, the former offensive coordinator for the national championship game for Alabama. He is now the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. I will get into that a little bit later on as the show progresses. Martellus Bennett for the New England Patriots swearing off of a visit to the White House. I'll be touching on that as well. The first order of business to get into would happen to be LeBron James, because LeBron James just seems in a bad mood these days. LeBron James doesn't seem too happy with anybody. Just a week removed from creating national headlines because he called out Charles Barkley, delving into the personal stratosphere of things. He comes out yesterday based off of a report by the New York Daily News saying not only that he wants Carmelo Anthony, but he's been pushing the Cleveland Cavaliers to push out Kevin Love in the process. LeBron James spoke to the media about this, asked about our very own Mark Schwartz, his thoughts on the report of him pushing Love out the door, or being willing to push Love out the door just to get Carmelo Anthony in a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform. Listen to what LeBron James had to say.
It's trash. And the guy who wrote it is trash, too, for writing that, especially during a game like that. So, it's always about outside noise, and that's just outside noise. For us, we got to focus on what needs to be done in order for us to continue to compete for a championship, and we got who we got. Our GM will do a great job of, figuring out if we need something else, but right now we're in a good place.
The report is trash, and the reporter is trash for writing that story, particularly at that time. What LeBron James was alluding to was the story being the back page of the New York Daily News. This being at a time when the Cleveland Cavaliers were playing the New York Knicks. Not last night, but essentially the night before. So here's my deal. LeBron James is not wrong. From everything that I've been told, he is not pushing Kevin Love out the door in an effort to get Carmelo Anthony. He does want Carmelo Anthony. He does want Carmelo Anthony as a teammate. He does think that Carmelo Anthony would significantly help the Cleveland Cavaliers. And for LeBron James to say otherwise would be a flat-out lie. But is he pushing Kevin Love out the door, who dropped 39 and 12 on the Washington Wizards in an overtime victory last night in the nation's capital? No, I would not go that far. LeBron James likes Kevin Love. And by the way, any of you who know Kevin Love, it's a lot to like about him. The brother can play. He can shoot. He can score. He can play. Don't think for 1 second that Kevin Love cannot play. He most certainly can. But do I think he's a better offensive player than Carmelo Anthony? No, I do not. And I listen to my colleagues like Tim Legler and others talk about he's a better fit for Cleveland than Carmelo Anthony. Let me say this to y'all, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Love is a better fit until June. But once June arrives, and you got to go up against the Splash Brothers with Draymond Green and Kevin Durant, he ain't a better fit then. Because at that particular juncture, you need a dude that can put the ball on the floor and create his own shot that way. And I'm not so sure that that's Kevin Love. Is Kevin Love a better teammate than Carmelo Anthony for the vast majority of the season? Depends on the team. With Cleveland, I would say they're better off with him than without him until June. But once June rolls around, and you got to go up against those Rough Riders. And in Rough Rider, I mean Draymond Green. But what I was alluding to was their offensive firepower. That is the Golden State Warriors. Having set shooters ain't going to cut it. Golden State is number one in steals, number one in block shots, number one in disruptive shots. There's a reason for that because they could go small, have Draymond Green in the game with a Kevin Durant, with an Andre Iguodala, with a Klay Thompson and a Steph Curry. And ladies and gentlemen, guess what? You can't score from the perimeter on them because they can lock you down because of their length. That's what you have to worry about. That is what is not good for Cleveland. That is why you need somebody like a Melo who can score off the dribble, who can create his own shot, who doesn't need set plays in order to get off. And by the way, let me also say this and put this out on Front Street. All of these folks who swear up and down that Carmelo Anthony ain't the way to go, you're looking at his individual talent, knowing that he's a better all-around offensive player than Kevin Love. But you're still looking at him holding the ball a little bit too long and being that kind of guy and saying Kevin Love would be better. Here's what you're not thinking about. You're not thinking about who they'll be playing with. I'm not asking you to think about Carmelo Anthony, the talent, up against Kevin Love, the talent. I'm asking you to think about Carmelo with LeBron. Kevin Love is a very good shooter, but he's a spot-up shooter. He can't dance off the dribble and pull up. That's not his game. And that's how you have to look at it before you make a decision, dissecting the talent of a Carmelo Anthony and a Kevin Love and asking which way did you go. And if you're Carmelo Anthony, let me say this to you. I love me some Carmelo Anthony. I've known this brother for more than a decade. I got a lot of love for him. I cannot absolve him from the travesty that took place last night at Madison Square Garden with the Lakers, the woeful Lakers, coming into Madison Square Garden and trouncing the New York Knicks the way that they did. I'm a believer in Luke Walton. I don't believe the problem with the Lakers are Luke Walton. But let's be clear, the Lakers are not very good. Jim Buss should be fired. Magic Johnson needs to get somebody else up in there quick, fast, and in a hurry. That needs to be co-signed by Jeannie Buss, and that is that. The Lakers stink, and just because you're not worse than the Knicks doesn't make you any less stink. That is just the truth. We're going to stop playing this nonsense here. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show. I'm back on ESPN Radio, damn it. And I ain't interested in sitting up there and glad-handing and soft-pedaling anything. Two largest markets in the United States of America have arguably two of the worst damn teams. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for the Brooklyn Nets, I don't think we would even dispute it. And I'm not supposed to use these words, but damn it, it's apropos. And I'm only going to say it once. But they suck. They stink. My apologies to the bosses. I'm not supposed to use that word, but damn it, I can't help it. The Knicks stink. The Lakers stink. Two of the largest damn markets in the United States of America, and this is what you have to offer the fans. I mean, I'm just disgusted. If you're Melo, you don't get to be absolved. And to the bosses, the Dave Roberts, the trial killers of the world, and so on and so forth, my apologies. I won't use the word again. Woosah. I just had to get it off my chest. I had to say something that personified emphatically the frustration that I'm feeling. Having said that, I don't blame LeBron for wanting Melo one bit, and I know he does. But he is right when he says he's not pushing Kevin Love out the door. That much is true. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. I got a lot more to say before I get to the phone calls. A matter of fact, to my producers, don't call no guests today. I don't want them. This is my show today. I ain't sharing it with anybody. because I still haven't gotten into Baylor as of yet, but I'm about to. Matter of fact, a legitimate argument can be made that the University of Baylor is the only thing that stinks more than the two teams in the two largest markets in the United States. But I digress for now. Don't you worry. I'll be back. As an aside, the biggest medical center on earth isn't found on the East Coast or the West Coast. It's found in Houston, Texas, America's third coast. Houston is home to the Texas Medical Center, or as they call it, TMC. It's the largest medical city on the planet. Each year, the TMC's 21 hospitals serve over 8 million patients. Its 3 medical schools and 6 nursery schools educate tomorrow's medical leaders. More doctors, nurses, and scientists work at the TMC than any other site in the world. With over 100,000 employees, it's the 8th largest business district in America. Every 3 minutes, a surgery begins at the TMC. Every 20 minutes, a baby is born. The Texas Medical Center leads the world in clinical research. TMC doctors and scientists are at the forefront of life-saving medical advances, developing new treatments, drugs, and devices to improve the health of humanity. So find out more about the innovations happening at the Texas Medical Center. Find out at tmc.edu. Your phone calls are coming, don't you worry, but not before I touch on Baylor University. I'll explain what I'm talking about in just a minute. You're listening to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I'm Andy Katz from ESPN, along with my co-host Rick Klein of ABC News. On the latest edition of Capital Gains, we're going to discuss President Trump's controversial executive order. We'll discuss it with Iowa's Peter Jock and SI.com's Michael McCann.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I really, really do try to keep my cool. I mean, it's like, you know, you just heard the latest news that a Baylor strength and conditioning coach was arrested on a prostitution charge. I mean, every time you turn around, it's like you got some sexual deviants running around this university. You got a strength and conditioning coach that's been arrested on prostitution charges. You got a head coach that filed a libel suit and then dropped it a day before. That filed a libel suit and then dropped it a day before. Text messages came out showing, and I'm talking about Art Briles here, text messages came out showing his negligence when it came to his football players being accused of everything from sexual assault to harassment to sexual assault to rape. You've got at least 3 dudes convicted. I mean, I just don't know where to go with all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, every day, approximately a month and a half ago, through the blessings of my bosses, of course, because I don't run the show. I'm just an integral part of First Take on ESPN every weekday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon East Coast time. We implemented a segment called Final Take. Max has done a few. Molly has done a couple, both fantastic. And, of course, I do a lot of them. It's my idea. And I took the liberty today of putting my thoughts in writing so I could express my disgust with what's going on at this university. This is about Baylor University. Before I even go any further, I would like y'all to listen to my final take on First Take this morning. Nuno, play that for me, please.
I'd love to say we've been here before, but I'm not sure that we have. Of course, there are college programs that have deserved fines. Others have deserved suspensions. There have been sanctions that entail banishment from NCAA tournaments or bowl games. In the case of Penn State, pertaining to the Jerry Sandusky's child abuse scandal, the death penalty was warranted, in my opinion, but not handed down. And then there's the program at Baylor, a program evidently so corrupt, so vile, so corrosive, you actually find yourself contemplating what they say about cats, wishing they had 9 lives, just so it could suffer death 9 times over. Please don't think I'm exaggerating. I'm not playing. Consider these numbers according to numerous reports. There have been 125 reports of sexual assault or harassment at Baylor from 2011 to 2015, with the former Title IX coordinator at the school swearing the number may actually be higher. 19 football players have purportedly assaulted 17 women since 2011, according to Baylor Regents, with numbers continuing to climb. A February court filing bumped that number to 31 football players having committed 52 rapes. Accusations have ranged from harassment to rape. There have been indictments and convictions. An athletic director is gone. So is the school president. So is former coach Art Browse, who conveniently dropped his libel lawsuit against the university just one day before text messages were released showing his dereliction of duty. Oh, did I forget to mention attempts at manipulating law enforcement officials along the way, all for the sake of the football program? This screams death penalty, without question. With Sandusky and Penn State, as vile as that was, there appears to have been limited knowledge. In the case of Baylor, this is systemic. And if the NCAA can't do anything, fearing the same fate they suffered once having to settle with Penn State for the sanctions they handed down, fine. That ain't even necessary any longer. All that needs to be done is for every parent in the United States of America to stand up, speak loudly, collectively, and say, quote, "There's no way in hell my daughter is ever going to Baylor." In the end, that's death in and of itself.
Do I need to say it any better than that? How in God's name has Baylor not received a death penalty? Can somebody explain that to me? I mean, these are all reported. I mean, 60 Minutes Sports, Wall Street Journal, quotes from Baylor Regents and what they said to the Wall Street Journal. 5 football players accused of 8 or more instances of sexual assault since 2009. 19 football players had assaulted 17 women since 2011. The numbers continue to climb. A February court filing bumped that number to allegedly 31 football players committing at least 52 rapes between 2011 and 2014. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, I thought Jerry Sandusky with his pedophile, disgusting self who should be thrown under the damn jail with the sodomites. I thought that dude was bad. I mean, what the hell is going on here? What is going on? This school should not be allowed to have a football program. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it's going far to say this. Based on these numbers and how it's being projected, am I right or wrong in saying this, Nuno, Jonathan? This comes across as a prison for women. I mean, it's like you there, you trapped. You got to be kidding me. This is supposed to be an institution of higher learning. By the way, am I right in saying, I got to double check this, Nuno, is this a Baptist school? I mean, one of the largest Baptist schools in the country? You got the nerve to associate yourself with religion with this kind of behavior? (866-729-ESPN). That's 866-729-3776. Nuno, let's go to break before I cuss somebody out. I'm scared.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
I don't understand how you can have an institution of higher learning that's associated with so many cases of sexual assault or rape or things of that nature, and nobody can do anything. I guess Penn State can't do anything because they handed down that postseason ban along with everything else to Penn State and ultimately had to settle once they were sued, and so they're going to be reluctant to step in again and involve themselves in this particular situation with Baylor. But parents nationwide, I know this much. My daughters wouldn't be going to that school. That would not happen. I promise you that. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Nick in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Nick?
Hey, Stephen A., longtime fan, first-time caller.
Thank you so much. What's up?
So before I get to my comment about the Knicks, kind of piggyback off the Baylor thing, a friend of mine, he actually got a job opportunity from the football department, and he declined it because he saw what the writing on the wall was. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting.
Smart man. Who would sense would want to be associated with that kind of nonsense? Who would want?
I know that I wouldn't want to be in it, and I'm glad that he made a smart choice. It's just unfortunate, to be honest. But kind of to go on to the Knicks, I'm watching that game last night, if you can even call it a game. And I was flipping through the channels, and I found the show. It was called the Jeff Hornacek Experience. And me and my father, we started laughing, and we were like, what's the Jeff Hornacek Experience? Not dealing with Carmelo and everything. So I wanted to call you today and be like, so what do you think that the Jeff Hornacek Experience is? Because apparently it's a TV show I had no idea about. So
No. The Hornacek Experience is when you got players that are damn near ready to revolt, because that's what happened in Phoenix. That's what that experience is.
Yeah, and we were hoping to hear kind of something like that. You know, we love listening to the show, and we wanted to ask you. But, no, we appreciate everything that you do for us, Stephen A. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Artie in New Jersey, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN.
Stephen A., long-time caller.
How are you?
Thank you, sir. I was great. I was at the Knicks game last night, and I don't think I was ever as embarrassed as last night. The Lakers look like Showtime. However, when I was leaving the game, I was sitting near Clyde Frazier, who called the game, and I walked over to him and I said, Clyde, what do you see about this? And he says to me, in all the years he's watching games, he doesn't understand why this is happening. He himself can't figure it out.
I don't understand that. I can figure it out. I can figure it out for you. Phil Jackson. Here's what you need to know. Let me explain something to you, okay, Artie?
Sure.
Phil Jackson is an 11-time champion. How in God's name can you become an executive and not have one championship component on your roster? Do you know who the championship component on his roster is?
No.
His assistant coach, Kurt Rambis.
Yeah.
That's it. Your head coach, no title. None of your players have a title. Not one. You have no one to look at the players and say, you want to win a title? This is what you have to do. You have no one but him. Think about that. What does that say about him?
Nothing.
There you go.
Nothing at all.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's go to Carlton in Massachusetts. You're live at Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for calling. What's up?
Listen, the reason I like you, okay, and have followed you for the last several years on both your radio show and your television show is you report the truth. You and I may disagree on opinion from time to time.
Correct.
But you report the truth and then go from there. And that's necessary not only in sports, but politics, everything.
I agree.
Today, on your First Take show, you allowed Max Kellerman to spout Patriots propaganda over and over again, completely false.
Okay,
it impacts two discussions that have been going on the last.
What did he say, Carlton? That was
okay.
false.
Well, first off, the discussions it impacts is whether Tom Brady is greater than LeBron James or anybody else, and whether Tom Brady is more important to the Patriots' success than Bill Belichick or vice versa. So those are the two discussions it impacts.
Wait a minute. But those are perspectives. You and I may disagree.
No, I know.
But they're perspectives.
I know.
Well, go ahead.
The nonsense Max is spouting is that in Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's tenure at the Patriots, which both of them started in the year 2000, their tenures overlap perfectly with the New England Patriots, that without Tom Brady playing, the New England Patriots are 13-7. That's completely false. The New England Patriots, without Tom Brady playing, are 18-19 in Bill Belichick's tenure and Tom Brady's tenure. Max Kellerman conveniently leaves out 2000 when Bill Belichick, with the highest paid quarterback in the league, by the way, at the time, Drew Bledsoe.
And Drew Bledsoe.
They were 5-11 that year. The next year, in his first two games that Bledsoe started, before he got hurt and Brady started, they were 0-2. So they were 5-13. Well, with Bill Belichick heading up the team with the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Okay. Let me stop you. Here's why I'm stopping you, Carlton. Couple of things. Number one, maybe Max was talking about since Tom Brady took over the helm, and he left it at that, not including the Drew Bledsoe era before Brady arrived.
You can't leave out the bad stuff when you're on.
Time out. Why do you choose today, on the day that the New England Patriots are in Boston, Massachusetts, near where you reside, celebrating their 5th Super Bowl title? Why are you picking now to make that call, Carlton?
By the way, I haven't even thought about the celebration because it's not important to me. I'm not going to it. I'm picking it today because today on your show, he multiple times, and he was arguing that Tom Brady is, I'm actually arguing pro-Tom Brady in this discussion, by the way, okay? I'm arguing that Tom Brady elevates his team far more than Max was giving him credit. Max was saying that without Tom Brady playing, the Patriots have a winning percentage of 65%.
Carlton, I don't have time to get into you too much with all of this stuff, but answer the question for yourself. Who's more valuable? I mean, who's more dominant? Is it Tom Brady or is it LeBron James?
I care less about that than Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick.
But wait a minute. You brought up First Take. And on First Take, the question was Tom Brady or LeBron. It wasn't Tom Brady or Bill Belichick today. It was Tom Brady or LeBron. So answer the question.
In that discussion, I think they're neck and neck. I think they both elevate their team. But what Max was arguing was Tom Brady doesn't elevate his team.
Well, we don't care.
That's what Max was arguing.
All right,
he was arguing that the Patriots have almost as high a winning percentage without Tom Brady as they do.
I got it.
And that's garbage. So I am arguing today a pro-Tom Brady argument. And you know all along I have been pro-Tom Brady. I have suggested that he was thrown under the bus for what Belichick was doing. And so that's the point I'm making today. I am making
You're making the point today. I don't care. I'm not letting you do that today because today Belichick is a champion. You're his number one nemesis. I get it, but he's a champion. Have a nice day, Carlton. We can talk about this another time. I'm not going to let you rain on Bill Belichick's parade today. He's a champion. They got it done. No matter how much you try to hate on him, he's a 5-time champion. Deal with it. Period. Let's go to Sean in New York. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Sean?
What's up, Stephen A? Much respect to you, my boss.
Thank you, man.
Go ahead. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
2 questions. One, is Ricky Rubio available? Would he be a good fit for the Knicks to be a playmaker?
No, Ricky Rubio can't shoot. No.
He can't shoot?
No.
Okay. 2, my second question, who would you think would be a good GM for the New York Knicks?
Personally, anybody better than Phil. Secondly, I don't think Steve Mills. I think Steve Mills would have done a better job than Phil Jackson. And you want me to tell you who I really, really think that the Knicks should get if they were to go outside? Who the New York Knicks should bring to New York?
Shoot.
Joe Dumars.
Joe Dumars.
Not a bad
idea.
Me tell you, listen. Joe Dumars struggled the last few years in Detroit. He's the same guy that went to 6 or 7 consecutive conference finals. He's the same guy that went to back-to-back NBA finals. And if Rasheed Wallace remembered to guard Robert Horry in the left corner instead of leaving him open for a 3, Detroit would have won two titles in a row. The knock against Joe Dumars, and this is the legitimate one, is that even though he had Tayshaun Prince, he should have never drafted Darko Milicic. He should have drafted Carmelo, because Carmelo went to number 3. Joe Dumars had the number 2 pick in Detroit. Cleveland had number 1. Joe Dumars should have drafted Carmelo, who was taken at 3, Bosh, who was taken at 4, or D. Wade, who was taken at 5. That's what he should have done. He should have never drafted Darko Milicic. And people have not let that go. But Joe Dumars' record as an executive speaks for itself. And the fact that his name is never mentioned when these potential openings come up speaks to nepotism, as far as I'm concerned, more than anything else. Now, you want to talk about Isaiah. You want to talk about Steve Mills and all of that stuff. You can make cases after this Phil regime. You can make cases for anybody. But if you're talking about an executive who has gone wildly unnoticed, despite a pretty damn impressive resume, it would happen to be Joe Dumars.
Perfectly
That is my
understandable,
answer.
my brother.
I appreciate the call, Sean. Thank you so much. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. More of your phone calls on the Knicks, on LeBron, on Melo, on Baylor. And, of course, don't think I forgot about Terrell Owens either. All that and more up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Pachulia knocks down Westbrook, then stands over him. He hit me on the heart. Sorry, I'm going to get his back. I don't play that game.
Russell Westbrook promised to pay Zaza Pachulia back for a hard foul. On the same night, he announced he no longer speaks with Kevin Durant. Don't miss the fireworks this Saturday night in Oklahoma City when they go head-to-head again.
Here's Westbrook. Two-hand jam.
The Warriors and Thunder. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
To the phones we go at 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Lynette in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Lynette?
Yeah, hi, Stephen A. I'm a true fan of yours. I listen to your show every morning, and I really get excited to tune into your show every day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're the best. What I want to talk to you about, though, is Phil Jackson. Everybody keep criticizing Melo. I'm a diehard Melo fan. Like you, I love Melo to death. I think Melo should stay on the Knicks because without Melo, the Knicks is not going anywhere. We don't need to keep rebuilding on the team. We keep rebuilding. We need to win.
But Lynette, haven't we reached the point where we need to let Melo go just for, like institute a mercy rule and let him go? Like, does anybody deserve to be subjected to this nonsense?
No, well, I think if Melo really wants to leave, I will give him my blessings because I think Melo is really very great and he should really go on a team to get a ring. But I don't know if I think Melo really wanted to bring that ring to New York, and I think we should admire Melo just for being here because if I was him, I would run like hell from the team.
It's not. There's no way that Carmelo Anthony should stay. And in the interest of full disclosure, he and I have gotten in many, many arguments over the last several years because I think that ever since Phil arrived, he should have asked out. He should have gotten the hell out of here. The second he could get his money, he should have gotten the hell out of here, period. He doesn't need to be here.
Okay. So what about Phil Jackson? Do you think that don't you think he's a fly in the ointment here?
Phil Jackson, to me, is asleep at the wheel. He never really wanted the job, and he's just taking the job because of the money. Phil Jackson doesn't want to put in the work. He doesn't want to be here. I firmly believe that. I think that's the problem.
And he brought two losers here.
And when I say here, I mean New York City.
Yeah, right. New York, that's right. He bring in Joakim Noah, who's completely useless. Everybody's disgusted with Joakim Noah. He's not going anywhere.
Well, the biggest thing about it is that you have no one with a championship pedigree on the squad, even though you're an 11-time champion. You understand the importance of this stuff, and you didn't add one single championship component to a squad, yet you're supposed to be pursuing something. It's like you're forfeiting seasons for crying out loud. It's incredibly distressing. Lynette, I don't know what else to say, but thank you so much for the call. I've got to run. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Cody in California, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Cody?
Yo, the other day I was watching First Take the day after the Patriots won the Super Bowl, and you and Max Kellerman were pretty even keel on the fact that you thought Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. Do you believe that?
I think Tom Brady has proven he's the greatest. I think Rodgers is the greatest talent, but at the same time, he hasn't accomplished what Tom Brady has accomplished, and I can't take that away from him. Tom Brady was absolutely sensational. That was a Joe Montana-esque drive to send it into overtime and then ultimately to win the game. I just can't deny him that level of praise. He deserves it.
If you had to base it upon who is the greatest, just whatever you consider the greatest to be,
I'm going to consider it Brady. I'm going to consider it Brady because Brady's a leader. Brady's a winner. Brady's committed. Brady hasn't regressed. All of those different things. There's been no hiccups in the greatness of Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers, I consider as a talent to be the greatest talent that I've ever seen. But we've seen great talent that hasn't materialized in the great results throughout sports history. Brady has the results. I'm giving the edge to Brady.
Okay, so since we have seen that before, wouldn't you say that Aaron Rodgers it would be fair to say he is greater than Tom Brady for the fact that this has happened before plenty of times, in fact, where greatness has not translated into, multiple championships.
I already explained my position. I already told you what I said. I said that Tom Brady has to be the greatest because he has the results to go along with his greatness, and Brady does not. But we can talk about this another day. I appreciate the call. Andre in Georgia, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Andre, go ahead.
Hey, I got a quick question for you, Stephen A. Who do you pick between Brady and Montana as the GOAT?
Brady now, after that drive. That was the finishing touch. I was waiting for something like that before I gave him that nod over Montana. He has it now.
But, well, why not Montana since he's the one that has the flawless Super Bowl record?
Well, I look at it from that perspective as well, but I think about longevity. Like, for example, Brady won his first Super Bowl 16 years ago. 16 years later, he's doing this. That counts, and that matters to me as well.
Okay, so why don't they hold Brady to the same standard as LeBron regarding having a flawed record or whatever, but still being the greatest of all time?
Because football is a different sport. And when you look at football, there's so many components that go into the success of a team. Whereas with basketball, you can have 2 stars on your team and run folks out of the gym, and you can become a champion. I appreciate the call, Dre. We got to get on out of here, but that's what it is. The basketball requires less in terms of personnel in order for a team to achieve success than football does. There's so many different components that go to a team. You could be great and you could still lose. Dan Marino is a testament to that. If Dan Marino was playing basketball, he'd have at least 1 championship. Hour number 2 up next. It's Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app. Russell Westbrook promised to pay Zaza Pachulia back for a hard foul. Plus, he faces ex-teammate Kevin Durant once again. The Warriors and Thunder. Saturday at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
Hey, basketball fans, I'm George Sedano on the latest NBA Lockdown podcast. Amino Hassan and I take care of some family business, discuss LeBron versus Frank Isola, and Eric Spoelstra should be running for president.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith Show coming at you, as I love to do, on ESPN Radio. Every weekday on 98.7 FM. 710 ESPN LA, and of course, Sirius XM, ESPN Radio, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Lots of stuff to get into, lots of phone calls to get to. A couple of more items that I want to touch on. Number one, I think that Terrell Owens being omitted from the Hall of Fame is an absolute travesty. I think media members who shred their objectivity and implement their biases into keeping somebody out of the Hall of Fame, like a Terrell Owens, I think they need to have their rights confiscated. Take it away from them. Terrell Owens, at 15,934 yards, retired as the second leading receiver in NFL history. 153 touchdowns, was either second or third in NFL history. This dude was clearly, from a numbers perspective, one of the top 3 receivers in the history of football. In the history of football. And you leave him out. That is a disgrace. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been a reporter for 24 years. Now, needless to say, I've got a soapbox. I've got this venue, this avenue, whether it be television or radio, to spew my venom and hostility if I so choose. And I swear to you, on the life of my mother, on the soul of my late brother, I have never, ever ignored someone's on-court or on-field production because of my personal animus towards them. It has never happened. It will never happen. I have an obligation to give you the truth. This is not my show. It's yours. First Take is yours. ESPN Radio is yours. SportsCenter is yours. You have a right to expect, not hope, expect that regardless of how I may feel about an individual, that I will be objective enough to tell the damn truth. And for any reporter to say that they are being fair, keeping Terrell Owens out of the Hall of Fame, they lose all credibility. And here I am, just to let you know, that is a fact. I'm going to tell you what I think. I don't think the media alone should be allowed to vote on Hall of Famers, nor do I think players alone, because players have their biases too. I think there needs to be a system of checks and balances, something to ensure that fairness is exercised when making these judgments. T.O. got shafted. Plain and simple. Point number 2. Martellus Bennett, tight end for the New England Patriots, just helping them capture a Super Bowl championship, basically announced to the world that he wasn't going to the White House. If called upon by President Trump, he's not going to the White House. He doesn't want to go to the White House because, obviously, he ain't too fond of the president. And so, Martellus Bennett and Devin McCourty. They're not going. Neither one of them want to go. They don't appreciate the words that have come out of our president's mouth. They don't want to have anything to do with them. And that is that. According to Devin McCourty, and I'm trying to find a quote that's right here, because he did speak on this matter. McCourty, who is a team captain, told Time Magazine Monday that he wouldn't go. He says, quote, "I'm not going to the White House. Basic reason for me is that I don't feel accepted in the White House. With the president having so many strong opinions and prejudices, I believe certain people might feel accepted while there while others won't." McCourty went on to say he believed attending the event is a personal choice and, quote, "I can't imagine a way I go there." That's what he said. And Martellus Bennett made it very, very clear that he's not going to go. I have no problem with either of them not going. That's their right as American citizens. When you take your opinions, however, and you put it in public forums, I'd like you to validate why you wouldn't go. I think Devin McCourty did that. Because regardless of what some may agree or disagree, that's how a lot of folks feel about President Trump because of the way he conducted himself during the campaign. On immigration, on not immediately denouncing David Duke of the KKK, on the whole birther movement where he assisted in attempting to delegitimize the first African-American president in the history of this nation. There are people who feel very, very salty towards President Trump about that. Here's the difference between me and them. You have some guys that sit up there and say, hey, I'm not going. I want absolutely positively nothing to do with this man. But you know what would have impressed me? If Bennett and McCourty decided to actually go to the White House, if indeed invited by Trump, which no doubt will occur. If they were invited to the White House, what would impress me is if they showed up just to ask President Trump how far along is he with his agenda to help African Americans like he swore he was going to do. Remind him that he said only he can fix it. Remember when he said that? Remember when he said to the African American community, what the hell else do you have to lose? To me, why not show up and ask him those questions? Steve Harvey when he decided to go to the White House, when he decided to go to the Trump Hotel, come out those golden elevators, you know what the real problem with that was? That Steve Harvey didn't inform his listeners. They didn't know until he got off the elevators. You communicate with them every morning. He should have told them. Yes, that is true. But don't tell me his heart wasn't in the right place. Steve Harvey does a lot of stuff within the community. He's a part of the Disney Dreamers Academy, which gives out scholarships and helps educate inner city youth. I'm a part of the Disney Dreamers Academy. I know this. He just should have told his listeners, that's all. But instead of Jim Brown and Ray Lewis going there to see what the president is willing to do to help the inner city communities and disenfranchised communities throughout our nation. Why would you not listen to the commander-in-chief if he wants to talk to you about those issues? What sense does that make? Because of the way he conducted himself during the campaign, can't you decry and lament and excoriate for how he conducted himself during the campaign, but still show a willingness to listen to him? When he's talking about bettering your community, what's the problem with that? I don't understand it. I don't get it. What's the problem? Just something I think folks should consider. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call up. It's 866-729-3776. Back with your phone calls and more in a minute. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio. By the way, the biggest medical center on earth isn't found on the East Coast or the West Coast. It's found in Houston, Texas, America's third coast. Houston is home to the Texas Medical Center, or as they call it, TMC. It's the largest medical city on the planet. Each year, the TMC's 21 hospitals serve over 8 million patients. Its 3 medical schools and 6 nursing schools educate tomorrow's medical leaders. More doctors, nurses, and scientists work at the TMC than any other site in the world. With over 100,000 employees, it's the 8th largest business district in America. Every 3 minutes, a surgery begins at the TMC. Every 20 minutes, a baby is born. The Texas Medical Center leads the world in clinical research. TMC doctors and scientists are at the forefront of life-saving medical advances, developing new treatments, drugs, and devices to improve the health of humanity. So find out more about the innovations happening at the Texas Medical Center at tmc.edu. Your calls and more up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Hey, baseball fans, I'm Buster Olney. And on the latest Baseball Tonight offseason podcast, Major League Baseball is talking about a radical change to its strike zone. The Pirates are moving Andrew McCutchen to right field. We talk to Jason Stark, Doug Glanville, Chelsea James of the Washington Post.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
To the phones we go right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to LJ in Houston. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, LJ? How are you?
Doing great, Stephen A., man. First of all, I got 2 things. I have a confession and I have a question. First of all, I sure hate I missed you last week in Houston during First Take, man. That line was too long. I couldn't wait that long. So, but
you know what? I got
show.
to admit to you, LJ, I was shocked. I mean, we always have a large crowd, don't get me wrong, but the line was around the block all 3 days. I couldn't believe how packed it was. I was shocked.
Man, they was out there at midnight waiting to get in that show, man.
Yeah. It was crazy. Go ahead.
But anyway, my confession is, this is for RJ. I have to confess, swallow my pride. Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. I had to get that out the way.
Yeah.
Now, my second question is, T.O., who votes on these ballots? Is it former players? Is it media? Like, how do they ballot?
About 46 media members and like 2 chosen Hall of Famers, if I remember correctly. Yes.
Okay. Like, are they accountable? Like, does people check their ballots when they put them in? Do they correct them? Or
I think they could hide behind it. I think if they could, like Peter King was on Mike and Mike this morning. He told you he voted for T.O., but T.O. didn't even make the top 10 list. I mean, can you believe that?
That's insane, Stephen A. The man has made All-Pro with 4 different teams. Like, I don't understand what is keeping this man out the Hall of Fame. He must have rubbed somebody the wrong way.
Of course he did. Of course he rubbed somebody the wrong way, but that should play no role in it whatsoever. Whatsoever. All right? Now, here's what it is. The Pro Football Hall of Fame has a 48-person selection committee, and they're charged with the vital task of continuing to be sure that new enshrinees are the finest the game has produced. I'm reading from their website here, okay? So you got 48 members. You got 48 members on the selection committee, and there are 16 at-large selectors, all of whom are also active members of the media, including one representative of the Pro Football Writers of America and 2 members of the Hall of Fame.
Wow. Well, if this man don't get it next year with Randy Moss, it's going to be a revolt, I'm telling you right now, because they can't keep doing this to this man. And my last question is, do you think that he'll be gracious enough to accept it after being left out all this time?
He will. He will. He will. Once it happens, it happens. But it's a disgrace, and I can tell you I spoke to him personally. He's hurt. He's hurt. He just feels like, the Hall of Fame is not living up to what it's supposed to be, and he feels like it's just rigged, to say the least. And he's very, very upset by it, no doubt.
Hey, man. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You do the same. Let's go to Carby in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Carby? Carby, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, what's going on, man? I just want to say I'm proud of you, man. You're from Jamaica, Queens, Hollis. I'm from Cambria Heights. I just want to say what's up. You're doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Go ahead, buddy.
I got 2 points. First point on Brady. Do you think that him and Belichick's, how should I put it, their legacy would be different if they were in the black and blue division with Pittsburgh and the Ravens? And
yes. No, I don't believe it would be different because they're in the AFC anyway. And they're in the AFC anyway. I don't think it would be different.
Man, what the Knicks need is somebody that's born and raised in New York to come in the Madison Square Garden and wreck stuff up, man. Like we had Anthony Mason. I think Quinn is from New York. We just need maybe a Mark Jackson. Is that possible?
Well, I think Mark Jackson. I think Joe Dumars can be an executive but I definitely think that Mark Jackson should be the coach. I definitely think that Mark Jackson coaches the team, but not with this leadership, not with this stewardship. Why go in this mess hole? Mark Jackson's got a very, very beautiful job here, working for Walt Disney, working for ABC and ESPN. Why should he subject himself to the level of ineptitude that's raking through Madison Square Garden? And by the way, I don't blame James Dolan the way a lot of people do. I really don't. He cuts the check. He makes sure you're paid. You got to go out there and do your job. And I don't think Phil Jackson's doing his job. I think that's the issue. I don't have the issues with James Dolan that other people have. He's an owner that's willing to spend the money. I think you keep the business side away from basketball, and maybe there's a little bit too much interference from time to time. Maybe. But ultimately, the man cuts the check. He gives you access to his private jets. He's making sure that you're taken care of, and all you got to do is go out there and do your job. And for some reason, he's just been terrible at hiring people to do the job. I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but my God, don't folks miss Donnie Walsh in New York? I'm just saying. Appreciate the call, man. Let's go to Antonio in Compton. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN, 710 ESPN LA, Sirius XM Channel 80. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
Hey, I have a question, just 2 questions about my lake show. Is there any possible way that Magic will have a nice little dinner with Larry Bird and tell him, you know what, I'll offer you this. I'll offer you D'Angelo Russell, and I'll put Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram in return. Let me just get Paul George.
Well, you got to remember something. First of all, Paul George is a stud. So you're not going to get him. You're not going to get him away from Indiana that easily. Secondly, and more importantly, Magic Johnson is an advisor. He ain't the decision maker. That's the problem you have here. He's an advisor. He's not a decision maker. So he can advise the Lakers on what to do. They don't have to do a damn thing he says.
What about another question about Anthony Davis? Is there any possible way that Mitch Kupchak could get on the phone and call them?
Can I ask you a question, Antonio? Antonio, serious questions here. Have you been drinking this morning?
Nah, not at all.
Have you been smoking this morning?
Not at all.
Have you been sniffing any morning?
Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
I'm just saying,
Anthony Davis, You really think that the New Orleans Pelicans will give away Anthony Davis? Are you insane?
Well, right now, the track record's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. They're just like the Lakers right now. They're probably at least about, 5 to 10 wins above the Lakers.
Antonio Davis is one of the greatest players in the game. Top 5 easily. Arguably top 3. He's 6'10", with a J and a handle, with a back to the basket and a face-up game, who can also defend, block shots, and averages 27 and 12. Are you insane?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm just saying, because right now my team, we're pretty bad off.
I understand it's terrible. I understand it's terrible, but that don't mean you don't have a license to make sense. I mean, what the hell is the matter with you? Anthony Davis? Please. That is franchise-altering right there. Anthony Davis right now, sir, is averaging 27.9 points, 12.2 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field. He's 6'10", 250, can run the floor, can finish with his back to the basket or facing up, can shoot J's or take it to the hole. This dude is one of the elite players in the world. And you brought up D'Angelo Russell and Nick Young or somebody to give away for him. Antonio, have a nice day, man. Don't tell the fellas in Compton you called me to make that kind of suggestion. They'll swipe your basketball card. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast. Damn it, I mean it!
I got to admit, I'm kind of shocked at what I'm about to tell you. I really am. I mean, this was some bad stuff going on. On January 13th, the Miami Heat lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. They were on a 4-game losing streak, and their record was 11-30. Ever since then, the Miami Heat, without Dwayne Wade, have won 11 straight. They've beaten Houston, Dallas, Milwaukee, Golden State. That was the game that Deion Waiters hit that 3 over Klay Thompson to clinch the deal. Brooklyn, Chicago, Detroit, Brooklyn again, Atlanta, the 76ers, and last night, the Minnesota Timberwolves. That began the first of a 4-game road trip, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philadelphia. It is not inconceivable that the Miami Heat can end up on a 15-game winning streak. It's not inconceivable. Orlando would be the 16th at home. Then they'd be on the road to Houston on February 15th. They'd lose that game if they won all the next 5. But I got to give it to them. Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, Hassan Whiteside is averaging 17 and 14. Goran Dragic is shooting like 48% from the field, 45% for three-point range. He's averaging 20 a night. Then you've got Deion Waiters, who's showing up, giving you 15 a game. I got to admit, this is impressive. Got to give love where it's due. Back to the phones we go as I'm looking at the TV screen, watching the New England Patriots enjoy their parade. They jamming. It's cold out there. It's raining, but they jamming anyway. Martellus Bennett is on top of one of the buses jamming. Speaking of him, let's go to David in Michigan. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, David?
What's going on, Stephen A?
Talk to me. What's up?
So my question is about Bennett's contract. He's a free agent. It's coming off season.
Yes.
And a little worried about his comment that, they overpay Super Bowl champions.
Yes.
Do you think he's going to go somewhere else, or do you think he's going to stay with New England?
It's possible. It's football, and they want their money. And he's a conscientious brother, no doubt. It all depends on the priorities, and it all depends on how much money is put out there. Do I think he would go to play somebody if they paid him more? Yes, but it would have to be much more. I don't think that You know, if somebody offered him $11 million and New England offered him $10 million, he'd leave New England because he's in a winning situation with the greatest quarterback in history. But I do believe if they blow him away with money that New England doesn't come close to, he would leave. Yes, he would. And he'd be right to do so because in the sport of football, that's how you do it.
All right.
Thank you. Let's go to Rakesh in Seattle. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Rakesh?
Buddy, I have to tell you one crazy thing, my friend. As I was watching the most unprecedented, craziest Super Bowl I've ever seen in my life, my friend. Yesterday, I couldn't call you, but today I have to tell you, my friend, it was absolutely remarkable, my friend. But I was wearing a custom-made shirt, 2018 Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl champions with my cowboy hat, cowboy boot. But when I got to sleep that night, my friend, I woke up sweating bullets. You know why? I saw, my friend, the Cowboys and New England Patriots. We were winning 28-3 halftime. I was dancing with my cowboy hat, cowboy boot, everything mellow, everything good. And then the evil Tom Brady, he coming back, and Bill Belichick, same thing with him. They do the exact same comeback as Falcons, my friend. And then, oh my goodness, it was a terrible nightmare, my friend. And I know a scenario like that would make you very happy, would it not?
Of course it would. That's why I'm sitting here laughing. The thought of the Dallas Cowboys bringing you that level of misery pleased me very, very much.
But, my friend, the Falcons, it must be terrible to be Atlanta Falcon fan. I mean, this is a loss. If that happened to my Cowboys, I would be stressed out. I would be so depressed for weeks on end, my friend.
That's true.
It will be truly terrible.
No question about it. It's a devastating loss for the Atlanta Falcons to have a 28-3 lead, to give up 31 unanswered points, to watch Tom Brady pick them apart the way that he did. There's no question that's devastating on so many levels. You're absolutely right. But it happens, and Atlanta's good enough to be right back next year. We'll see what they do. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Kyle in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Kyle?
How you doing, Stephen A?
Talk to me, man.
I'm a Patriots fan, very happy with the result. Never doubted number 12, you know. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with people. I think everybody's a little hard on Atlanta right now with their play calling in the last, I guess you could say, quarter and a half.
Okay.
I looked at it from the perspective of you lose Tevin Coleman, so your power back is gone. And everyone's questioning why didn't they run the ball. They ran the same toss play maybe about four or five times with Devontae Freeman.
Okay.
Why risk losing yards or being pushed out of bounds to where the clock is going to stop?
No, first of all, that's inaccurate. You don't have to worry about being pushed out of bounds because you simply go down and stay in bounds. Keep the clock running, make them use up a timeout. That's number one. Number two, no matter how many yards you would potentially lose running the football, it wasn't going to be as much as the 12-yard sack. That, you know, the sack that cost you 12 yards when Matt Ryan took that sack. There is no excuse for Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan to be running pass plays at that particular juncture. You run the damn football because all you need is a field goal. Matt Bryant, between yards of 35 and 45 yards, Matt Bryant, he had made 24 of 25 field goals from within that distance, as close to money as you could get. There is no excuse. There is no excuse not to just run the football, let the clock run, and then kick a field goal. None.
And I understand that 100%, but I look at someone like Gostkowski, who's basically been automatic for years for New England, miss an extra point. I also look at something as if you're playing the New England Patriots. You want to put them out of their misery. This is a dog that you can't just let die slowly. You have to stop on them, and I think that's why they were so aggressive in let's throw this football and let's score this touchdown to end this game completely.
My man, they were wrong. They were wrong, and it proved as much. You were in a position. You were already in field goal range. You kick the field goal. You're up 11. That's a two-possession game. When Tom Brady and the New England Patriots scored that touchdown to tie and a two-point conversion to tie it, that's only 8 points. And it took them till the last possible minute to score those points. There's no arguing around that. Got to run. Appreciate the call. Lou in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Lou?
What's up, Stephen A? You the man, brother.
Appreciate it.
I want to talk about Porzingis. Like, he's already come out and said that he wouldn't be able to handle the pressure basically alone without Melo, and that he feels like he has a lot more to learn from Melo. So the Knicks are going to get rid of Melo, whether it's now or later, and then Porzingis is going to be alone. Wouldn't you try to, like, package that young talent with somebody else and maybe reach out to, like, Sacramento?
Because the reason why you would get contracts, expiring contracts and the like, is so you can acquire young talent like Porzingis. Porzingis is not going anywhere. He will stay a New York Knick as well. He should. He ain't going no damn place.
Right.
Nowhere.
Right. I don't think he would be the man.
He doesn't need to be the number one option. You got to get talent around him, no doubt. But in accumulating talent, you don't let go of it.
True.
Not the young talent you have. You keep that and
you
add
Knicks,
to it.
Coming up, when I was coming up, the Knicks, they had, like, tough guys. And I know the game is different now.
It's much different, bro. It's
they just need, like, I don't see, they need a Draymond Green.
Oh, stop it.
Somebody.
They need everything. They need everything. You lost me there. They need everything, Lou. Everything. They need new ball boys. They need new doctors. They need new masseuse. They need new massage therapy. They need new, they need everything. 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 The only thing the Knicks don't need new is security at the Garden. All those people are good people. That's it. Everything else they need. Everything. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Your calls to close out the show. Plus, there's a new coach in Atlanta. I'll explain in a minute. It's Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Pachulia knocks down Westbrook, then stands over him. He hit me on the heart. Sorry, I'm going to get his back. I don't play that game.
Russell Westbrook promised to pay Zaza Pachulia back for a hard foul. On the same night, he announced he no longer speaks with Kevin Durant. Don't miss the fireworks this Saturday night in Oklahoma City when they go head-to-head again. Here's Westbrook. Two-hand jam. The Warriors and Thunder. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Tell y'all something. There are some people in this world that are really, 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 really lucky. I mean, I'm serious. Because I don't know if y'all heard the news, but Steve Sarkisian, former coach, head coach for the USC Trojans, the offensive coordinator for Alabama for just one game, which was a national championship game in which they lost. This dude is now the new offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. Now keep in mind, Sarkisian's only NFL experience was in 2004 as the Raiders quarterback coach under Lane Kiffin. Now, he replaced Lane Kiffin at USC. One of 3 times he replaced Kiffin. But he had a battle with alcoholism, for which he entered rehab treatment. But if you remember, the end of his days there wasn't very pretty. He was inebriated at a rally, embarrassed the university in that regard. And that's what this comes down to. Got to remember it. Let's call it like it is, right? Got to remember, Nick Saban hired Sarkisian to be an offensive analyst on Alabama's support staff. When the movie was announced, it seems like something was going on because Sarkisian had always been straight. They had been tight with Lane Kiffin because they coached at USC together. And the belief was he would succeed Kiffin as offensive coordinator once Kiffin decided to leave Alabama, which he did was to take the job at Florida Atlantic. But it was the week of the national championship game. This is the same Steve Sarkisian that arrived at USC as a quarterback's coach for the 2001 season. With the exception of a 2004 season spent with the Raiders, he worked at USC under Pete Carroll through 2008, later as a coordinator and assistant head coach. He left for the Washington head coaching job in 2009, went 34-29 in 5 seasons in Seattle before he got the USC job. When he got the USC job, he went 9-4 in 2014, which was his first year, but was fired after a 3-2 start the next year, which was 2015. He was to take a leave of absence, but USC dismissed him shortly after that. And Sarkisian checked into rehab to seek treatment for alcoholism, before later filing a lawsuit accusing USC of not accommodating his alcoholism as a disability. And that suit actually went to arbitration. They didn't have a choice but to fire him, but that's what went down. And after all of that, this dude is the offensive coordinator of the reigning NFC champions. I only have this to say. Only in America. Only in America. Peyton in Mississippi, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, how you doing, Stephen A?
I'm good. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say, man, you're one of the greatest, man. Even though I see people bash you, man, I like how you always blunt and straightforward.
Let me tell you something, bro. If they ain't bashing me, I ain't doing something right. What I do for a living on television and radio, they supposed to bash you. That's what makes them feel special. Let them keep it coming. They can kick rocks. I don't give a damn who bashes me. Let's get it on. Now go ahead.
Okay. Hey, so you ever feel like Tom Brady will ever get past the asterisk? Like, everyone always, like, loves to hate him. Me, I'm a Brady fan because I love the way he comes back and he always shows composure. But people always talk about the tug rule. Even though he was a rookie, you know, and he wasn't proven at the time, so he really didn't have anything to do with it. Then they talk about Spygate, the Flakegate. When he's like the only person that's getting charged, you never hear people bash Belichick or the ball boys. Man, it's always Brady. It's always like
I got you. This ain't the day to call about that, though, Peyton. I appreciate the call, and I thank you. But ain't nobody bashing Brady today. Not after that performance in the Super Bowl on Sunday. This is the wrong day to call about somebody Brady bashing. Ain't nobody Brady bashing. We all know that he deserves the praise he's received. Let's go to Ty in Texas. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Real quick, Ty, go ahead.
Hey, real quick, Stephen A. Love your show. I just want to talk to you a little bit about what's the difference in you having a problem with Marty Bennett and Devin McCourty. You don't have a problem with them not going to the White House, but you kind of ripped Brady a couple years back when he said he had another commitment. Only difference is he really didn't explain himself.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I called him out about. I said, if you ain't going to show up, tell us. Don't sit up there and lie and make up a weak excuse. I said, tell us. Now, these guys came out.
Not a weak excuse.
Whoa. You asked me a question, damn it. I'm giving you the answer. I answered your question. The question was, why did I have a problem with Brady? Martellus Bennett and Devin McCourty told us exactly why they're not going. In the case of Tom Brady, he never did. And I said, if you're not going to show up, be man enough to tell us why. That's what I said. And I stand by that.
Real quick. I think your words were respect the office, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter.
No. It doesn't. It does matter because you came up with an excuse that you had a previous commitment and then you showed up at the practice facility in New England and it was clear that you didn't have a previous commitment and you lied. That's what I called him out on. I didn't call him out on. Yeah, he has a right not to go, but you do respect the office. But at the same time, the office has to respect the American people and you. These individuals for the Patriots that aren't showing up are swearing that there's a president that doesn't respect the office enough to conduct himself properly. That certainly wasn't the case with President Obama. But we can get into that more. I'm not hiding. I'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you 22 hours from now. It's Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith